Yo, man, this election season is a jover. It is a by-done. And who knew that it would ultimately be good old Uncle Joe out there driving the final nail in the coffin. This election cycle has really harkened back, not to 2020. That was a weird anomaly. There's not too many Zoom meetings happening, in the basement or anything like that, except for, well, that's kind of where they keep Joe at this point in time, but for very good reason, because he ended up running back an old Democratic staple by calling the opposition not suckers and losers, not a basket of deplorables, but simply just garbage. I mean, here's where we're at when it comes to the Democratic side of things. Like their W's are few and far between, and it's been a disaster. There are going to be books. Well, there's always books written about political campaigns, but this one's going to be analyzed for a very long time. I think I got a video coming out tomorrow talking about just how awful Tim Walz is. In my opinion, like I've really scoured my data banks, and for as long as I can think, he's the worst VP pick ever. Like Tim Kaine was pretty bad, Hillary Clinton's VP. Like he was a lot like Howard Dean. You remember back in 2004, we're gonna go to Vermont, and we're gonna go to New Hampshire, we're gonna take back the White House. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, you had the dollar store version with Tim Kaine, who's just kind of a bit of a spastic. But Tim Walz, like that dude has so many red flags, you would reliably confuse him with the father of somebody he was banging on the side back in 1989. Like I said, more on that tomorrow. But while we'll talk about the Trump side of life, the Republican side of the ticket right here, we'll focus on what's going on with the outgoing administration, with Joe Biden's team, and the fact that why on earth, with less than a week remaining in the campaign, would he come out and say, without saying, that the Democrats are too caught up with the jokes of Tony Hinchcliffe? Like, they can't get out of the way, right? Because they played the clip on Monday where, he came out and he made a Puerto Rican joke, which, I don't know, every comedian in New York probably has at least a half dozen of them at this point in time in any given half hour that they have worked out. Like, come on, it's a low bar comedy, and it was pretty funny too. Like, it's a third world country on the U.S. taxpayer dime. He was a little bit more colorful with his delivery, but he also had much spicier jokes. But here we are, man. Okay, years after everybody is, in general, right? Like, they might not say it in public, but now there's more people coming out and actually being vocal with their opposition to this societal insanity. And the Democrats are spending the last week parsing jokes and getting faux offended on behalf of other people. This is what you guys are doing. It's an implosion we have never seen in recent political history. And like I said earlier, this is going to be studied for a very long time. But what did old Uncle Joe say about this? Biden calls Trump supporters garbage. In shock moment, yes, evoking Hillary Clinton's deplorables insult. And yeah, I was thinking, it's like I heard this and it's like, okay, cool. Maybe this is Joe just tripping over his words. Maybe he was trying to make light of the joke that was there and poorly worded it. It's totally within his wheelhouse to do, right? I wouldn't have been taken aback by that. But no, he just simply made it irrefutable that now the Dems, knowing that they're going to lose, oh yeah, now they're just going to try to go scorched earth on this and just denounce and attack every Republican possible. President Joe Biden torpedoed his Vice President Kamala Harris's big closing campaign speech by calling Donald Trump supporters garbage in an astonishing outburst. The 81-year-old commander-in-chief's bombshell gaffe evokes memories of Hillary Clinton's infamous dismissal of Trump voters as deplorables in 2016, which contributed to her shock loss. Came as Harris was hoping to capture the nation's full attention with a carefully planned rally in front of the White House for 75,000 Democrats 1 week before Election Day. Oh, when's that going to be taking place? I'm sure that's going to suck. Harris used the event to, make her final case for why she should be elected president. But Biden, on a separate Zoom call with his supporters, was he not invited? Holy shit. Stepped on her moment by appearing to lash out at Trump supporters in what Republicans lambasted as a disgusting attack. President was weighing in after the comedian at Madison Square Garden, Tony Hinchcliffe, of course, compared Puerto Rico to a floating island of garbage. No, he didn't compare it. He just said that Puerto Rico was a floating pile of garbage. Biden said, the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. Yeah, no context needed on that one. That was the statement. He did a Biden. He knew he was due for one on the campaign trail. Outside of, lock him up, what he was saying, what was that, last week up there when they had him stowed away in New Hampshire, and now he goes live and just simply says that supporters are garbage. All right then. But we'll circle back around to the Democrat side of life, because I would imagine, Trump's going to have a couple of things to say about this, but I think JD Vance is more or less going to have a more direct approach with this, because later today, or maybe even at the time that you guys are listening to this, he's going to be sitting down with Joe Rogan for his own interview. Now, I don't think it's going to be quite as viral as the most viral interview in the history of the Joe Rogan podcast, but it's going to be pretty interesting, because Joe seems at least a little bit more partial to JD, at least off rip than he was with Trump prior to the interview. And well, I've said this before, and hell, you can even go back to the video where it was very unpopular in some Trump circles and saying that JD Vance is the pretty good VP pick, all things considered. Like, he's young, he's a fighter, he's quite eloquent in his speech, he's a damn good debater, and he brings very few liabilities with him, and he's kind of proven his worth on this campaign trail. Honestly, he's been a very good VP, in so much as whenever you hear about him, he ends up looking better in the aftermath, especially, that VP debate between him and Walz is like, there was a clear victor and Tim Walz. And so if he's setting himself up to be the heir to the MAGA movement, this interview could go a long way to securing that for him. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he goes 3 hours to match Trump, what they cover on that podcast, because we know that interview is more than likely, well, okay, if it's going to follow the same release schedule, if it's getting recorded on Wednesday, it'll drop on Thursday or Friday, likely Thursday, latest on Friday. That's probably going to be the final podcast, the political podcast that Joe Rogan's going to do. That's because YouTube has been potentially messing with the Trump interview, and that also, the Democrat side of things, yeah, they're not really interested. They've got a couple of caveats that were making this very difficult to put together. Joe Rogan says the Trump interview faced issue with YouTube search as JD Vance plans a Rogan appearance. Joe Rogan says his interview with former President Donald Trump faced an issue that prevented it from surfacing on YouTube search function, a problem Google reportedly said it is addressing. As some fans allege, without evidence, the video sharing site has intentionally suppressed the interview. I mean, I've seen a few videos. I didn't have difficulty locating the video for the interview in the succeeding days of its posting, and I was watching it on my initial viewing prior to it getting delisted, because there was some problems at the beginning, and it was temporarily delisted because it was supposed to go up simultaneously with the Spotify version of that, but something ended up getting borked there. But then there were some complaints that, people couldn't actually get to the real interview. This was after it was relisted, but there's a lot of problems with that. And then some of the screen captures that I seen as well is because there's a lot of reaction content over the top of it from a lot of YouTube's trusted sources. So you have the likes of CNN, The Hill, Fox News responding to a lot of the stuff that's down there. And yeah, those smaller videos, because they come from trusted sources, they're more likely to rank higher in the search results. That could end up influencing, and depending on whoever's doing the screen capture and depending on their search and watch history, could favor some of those results over the source material. So that could explain it, but that's apparently been all fixed, and that's all good and fine and dandy. You can go and actually watch the interview, because over the past couple of days with these issues that have gone on, and YouTube has apparently fixed the glitch. Rogan proper put up the interview on Twitter, and it has millions of views at this point in time. Elon Musk retweeted it or reposted it or something like that. So yeah, it's getting out there to the masses, and people are coming away from that interview like I kind of did by just saying it's one of the most digestible Trump interviews that you're likely to see. And it was actually, one of Joe Rogan's best showings. And so I am tentatively excited and anticipating listening to the JD Vance interview, because I think it could be fairly informative, and it'll definitely reveal and peel back a couple of the layers that might be cause for concern for a future presidential run or the future vice president of the United States. But what about the Kamala side of life? Okay, she could definitely use, and especially after Joe just calls half of the country garbage, she could use a little bit of recovery, because that Club Shay Shay podcast, the Shannon Sharp, the TDS afflicted former tight end of the Denver Broncos, he could definitely, or rather, after that interview got ratioed and the clips getting pulled out of that of just Kamala lying to everybody in the world that Trump's going to terminate the Constitution, take away your gun rights and your First Amendment. And I grew up in a middle class household, and I worked at McDonald's. Everybody's kind of tired of those answers, and Joe, well, he'd be more than capable of drawing some coherent answers from Kamala. It just doesn't really seem like that's going to happen, because Joe, it was actually underneath when he posted the Trump interview, he clarified that the Kamala campaign are making it really difficult, and in fact, yeah, we're probably not going to make this podcast happen. Okay, it's not going to happen, and outside of the memes that were very likely to happen from this, I don't think we're really missing out on any great wisdom being dispensed to the masses. But Joe Rogan shoots down Kamala Harris' podcast interview over campaign's demands, and they are, well, there's something. Okay, Joe Rogan says he has shut down a podcast interview with Vice President Kamala Harris after her campaign made several demands, but insisted he hope it can still happen. Yeah, there is theoretically there is time out there. It's just, if she was planning for that big 75,000 person speech in her own backyard, which how many celebrities does she have booked for that? Who knows? If that was going to be her final campaign rally, just to really drive it home. Yeah, a little under a week removed from the election. Yeah, it kind of leads me to believe that I guess the Democrats' campaign strategy is, well, you know what? If we just keep on imploding, we can remove one aspect of this emulation and hope that the other side, the other side blows up. Yeah, no, that's what they're going to do, right? Like, they're going to say something completely unruly, right? No. Mega Popular podcaster said that the Democratic presidential nominee's team had wanted him to travel to her and for their chat to last for only an hour, which both of those are absurd. I think I've only seen, like, outside of a live event that Joe has hosted, I legitimately don't know. I don't think that he has ever had a podcast outside of the confines of his numerous studios. I legitimately don't think that's the case. Like, yeah, there were a couple of live shows that were branded Joe Rogan experiences, but he has never gone on location. And that was one of the big bugaboos back in 2020, 2021, one of the theoretical holdups that was preventing this Trump-Rogan interview from happening, because there was the idea that Trump would have to go over to Mar-a-Lago and do the interview there, but that just simply didn't happen. And, well, concessions were made on both sides, and it looks like a W for both. But when it comes to, Kamala, you're not exactly at the position where you can go ahead and leverage the most popular podcaster. The best that you can do is the Breakfast Club with a clearly delusional Charlemagne the God who says, I've got a bigger platform. Can you believe this? He thinks that the Breakfast Club is bigger than the Joe Rogan experience, like by no perceivable metric. Maybe by a black guy hosting a podcast in New York. Maybe he's the biggest in that demographic, but outside of that, like Spotify charts, iTunes charts, YouTube charts, like, he's not even close, bro. The only time that I see a Breakfast Club clip that's out there, and I understand that I'm not exactly the target demographic, is when somebody's memeing on how stupid the guest is. That's about it. That's about all. That's the only time that I see anything coming out of the Breakfast Club, or Hillary Clinton taking a bottle of hot sauce out of her bag and everybody going, oh, it's so great, we love a white woman. They offered a date for Tuesday. Oh, okay, cool. So that's already passed, but I would have to travel to her, and they only wanted to do an hour. I strongly feel the best way to do this is in the studio in Austin, Rogan said in a statement on X, adding that the Harris campaign has not passed on doing the podcast. Maybe they were just doing the big ask, okay? Maybe they're bigger Trump fans. Maybe Trump should follow through on the idea of sending her a mega cap, because, well, clearly she's read The Art of the Deal. You ask for everything that you want, and then you end up walking back your demands and negotiations. My sincere wish is to just have a nice conversation and to get to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen. Well, here's the thing, Joe. If you sit down with Kamala, you're never going to figure out who she is, because she doesn't even know who the fuck she is. Like, this is a dumb individual. She's very low IQ, okay? She's not very smart. In fact, she's kind of stupid, and she has other campaign tactics that are out there, like the Harris Walls official Discord server has a meme vault, and it's, well, it's almost as bad. It's almost as bad as those corporate memes that you see from cringe TV shows. The Boys in season 2 did it. She-Hulk did it, and they're real bad. Oh wow, that's the most tolerable one. But oh god, I read these before, but holy shit, man, I just seen the font up in the top left hand corner, and bro, these are they're supposed to appear. Man, okay, we got to get off this. Okay, they're supposed to appear low effort and just, oh my god, like just how weird. It's like the Trump campaign, but shit like that, bro. It's so bad. It is so stupid. But instead of doing interviews, instead of having grassroots, instead of astroturfed support, well, they can just go ahead and allow their media surrogates, like from The View, specifically Whoopi Goldberg, to really drive home the point as to why you need to go out there and vote for Kamala. Whoopi Goldberg: Trump will break up interracial marriages and deport the non-white person. We here now? We're here now. Holy shit. The media continues to make absurd assertions about Donald Trump in the desperate effort to derail his campaign just a week out from the election. The latest come from Whoopi Goldberg via The View, who claimed that Trump plans to break up interracial married couples and deport the person who is not white. I don't know where she comes to this conclusion, and quite frankly, I think about the only way that this tangentially makes sense. Do you guys remember when they were going after Clarence Thomas? Well, that's every day that ends in Y, and when Democrats are about to do something stupid in the news, they need to distract away from that. But they were trying to attack him because he's also, oh my god, in a miscegenated relationship. Oh my god. I think that this was originally in the response to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but where would the Supreme Court stop? What would end up ultimately happening? Just think of the other rights that they could overturn, like Love v. Virginia. They could go ahead and get rid of interracial marriages, just like the one that Clarence Thomas has. What a hypocrite! Oh, what if it happens to you? It's like, wow, you guys are super unhinged, and that's about the only way that I could connect these disparate thoughts. But here I am trying to get inside the mind of Whoopi Goldberg, who, yeah, she said it. This isn't a mischaracterization or anything like that. And I know there's so much cringe going around right now, but it's only 20 seconds of The View. I think we can all survive.
All of you. Talking about you, it's us. He's not going to, say, oh, you're with a white guy, I'm going to keep you from being deported. No, he's going to deport you and put the white guy with someone else. The man is out there.
Pot calling kettle. Well, anyways, how do you come to that conclusion? So he's going to break up interracial couples, okay, and send out the person who's darker than the other one. Yeah, and then just put the white guy with someone else. So, okay, I don't know if you remember, but for 12 seasons, he hosted a show, got people jobs. He wasn't the host of Love Connection or anything like that. So I think your hysteria is just a tad bit unfounded there, Whoopi.
He's also,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, to be fair, I wouldn't want to run anything more than that, but this is hysterical. It's not really troubling anymore because I think we've seen just how desperate and unhinged they've become. Just characterizing the Madison Square Garden rally in the way that they did. They're really trying to set up Trump to get shot at again, okay? After the election, when he very obviously wins, I cannot put myself in a headspace, and I can't in any form or fashion. Not that I haven't tried, but what is a principled position outside of the people who are just going to vote blue no matter who, just Democrat diehards, and then the people that are obviously afflicted with TDS. What's the biggest selling point for Kamala Harris Tim Walz ticket? I cannot come to a principled conclusion that would make me believe that Kamala Harris is the better option to Donald Trump. I legitimately, there is no honest way I can come to that conclusion. Like during the last election cycle, I could at least posit some points for, yeah, okay, if you want to vote for Joe Biden, here's a couple of reasons. I cannot do that with Kamala Harris outside of just superfluous reasons. She's not Trump and she's a woman. That's about it. That's the only thing that I can come up with, and neither of those are principled points. And then you look at her surrogates and how unhinged they are. I don't think that any endorsements ultimately help a candidate, but I think they can detract, and this is what we're getting from the Kamala Harris side of life. And it's obviously not working, because there's something else that I'm going to point out in the Tim Walz video tomorrow. Her campaign launched a Fortnite map that I thought was launching maybe a little bit later. It could have coincided with the OG maps that are going live over the weekend. But yeah, people aren't playing this. It's like, okay, cool, you're trying to target the Fortnite crowd, which is, well, underage, so I understand why the Democrats are targeting them, but they can't vote, which, okay, I guess, if you're not allowing voter ID anymore, they could theoretically vote, but nobody's playing this. Like, your popularity is the single most artificially inflated phenomenon I have seen since the pilot episode of Baywatch. You see the polls that are out there right now, okay? And, as we get closer to the election, and especially when I do my on the day what's happening Tuesday update, we taking a look at how disparate these polls are. Right now, I see it's like 66-33 in favor of Trump for a victory, and I'm kind of thinking that it's going to be even greater than that, because I don't know where they get the numbers. As Rogan and Trump pointed out on their interview, it's like, have you ever been called for a poll? It's like, still, I don't know who's out there. And the methodologies of a lot of these polls, like, you're sampling a subsection of a certain demographic of people, and you're extrapolating that out, and you're still coming to the conclusion that it's going to be an overwhelming Trump victory. We're going to be in for something special, something I wasn't alive for back in 84 or in 76, or was that 72? I don't think it's possible for either candidate at this point in time to win 49 states. It's not in the cards. There are certain strongholds that are just never going to flip regardless of the candidate. Jesus Christ could run on one side of the ticket, and you would still have, if he was running as a Republican, California would flip him the bird, and the rest of the Western Pacific coast. Like, it just wouldn't happen in today's day and age. But there's a good chance that Trump takes the victory on the night, and he also wins the popular vote, because see him wherever he goes, he fills the arena. He doesn't need an opening act, and when he does, he fills Madison Square Garden 3, 4, 5 times over. When Kamala Harris is out there, she's the opening act for a rap concert, and that's the only way that she can pack the fans in the stands. And hell, they aren't even fans of her, they're fans of the celebrities who aren't giving her any star power. No rub for her, even though that's how she got to this point. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.